Real Talk with Jodi and Michal. Real friends, real situations, real life. Authentic chats from the heart to the gut. Two best friends keeping it raw, real, and relatable.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Jodi and Michal. I'm Michal Offer, functional nutritionist, and I'm joined by probably my oldest, longest friend, not oldest in age,
Yeah.
longest friend, Jodi Greenblatt,
Hi.
from Empower Her Coaching.
Yep. Hi there. I'm Jodi Greenblatt, Empower Her Transformation. I do coaching. I coach women to help them break free from toxic relationships so that they can date better and have healthier relationships.
It's always great to chat with you. And we always chat a little bit before and we kind of get carried away a bit. And we have to stop ourselves and say, oh, hold on, wait for the podcast. And I know a lot of you are wondering what we have in common with what we do. And I think you'll be surprised. And we have views on everything. And we don't just discuss what we do. We discuss life, right? It's real talk.
We do.
And we always appreciate comments and questions. If you wanted to hear our take on anything, feel free to leave comments below. Also, sharing and subscribing to our podcast really helps us share the message, helps us create a bigger community. And community is important, especially for women. And I mean, men can join too, but especially for women, especially as we're getting on there in years, slowly but surely. I think it's nice to be able to connect with like-minded people and share our opinions, whether we agree, whether we disagree. We might learn something new, we might change minds, we might not.
Mhm.
So, with all of that, Jodi, I'm going to put it to you today. What were we thinking about talking about?
About talking about. Yeah. So, well, it depends on the themes that sometimes come up for me during the week with clients. I think about different things. And today I was thinking about our gut, our intuition. And it's connected for both your work and mine. The gut, literally, is what you work with, nutrition. And the gut for me means more intuition, what we're feeling, that sense you get. Are you in tune with yourself? So let's talk about that today.
So first, I want to mention that last week we had a very in-depth conversation, and that's in episode 2. We had a very in-depth conversation about food. I covered a lot of stuff. I spoke really fast. So there will be a Q&A about that later. But in last week's session, I really went over why the gut is the root, is the core of our intuition, and how it actually impacts our brain and vice versa. So I encourage everybody, if you haven't yet, to go back and listen to that episode so that you can get a good idea of some of the things we go through today.
You went into in depth on that. It might be worth it. What do you think? Just giving just a brief synopsis of that connection between the brain and the gut. Doesn't have to be in detail, but just to make that connection as we hop off onto this topic today.
Okay, good idea. So, we've all had the feeling of butterflies in our stomach, or when we get excited, or when we're in love, or when we're scared. Often, we feel a lot in our bellies, and that's no coincidence. There are trillions of bacteria that live in your large intestine. It's called the microbiome, and they have a huge impact on the functioning of the brain. Now, in most other functions in the body, the brain is the controller and it directs everything. However, there is a big nerve called the vagus nerve. It's one of your 12 cranial brain nerves, and it goes all the way down from your brain. It innervates almost every single organ in your body. But one of the places where it has a huge connection, a huge intersection, is in the lower gut, in the large intestine. And the bacteria are one of the few, and this microbiome functions almost like another organ. We couldn't live without it, and they couldn't live without us. And this microbiome has direct access. It has that red telephone line to the brain. And it's one of the few places in the body where it can direct the brain as much as the brain can direct it. And often, and there's a lot of research in this department, and there's stuff that we know, and there's so much that we don't. But very often, the gut, the bacteria in the gut, have direct the brain in many ways, and many of our brain chemicals. So those are the things that you would discuss perhaps in your practice, our what we call our neurotransmitters, our brain hormones like serotonin and melatonin are made in the gut. Without the gut bacteria, we can't make a lot of the hormones or the neurotransmitters that allow our brain to function, that allow our neurons to speak to each other. So gut feelings isn't just something that we sucked out of our thumb.
That's what I was going to say. That's the fascinating thing.
It's actually the microbiome reacting to our external environment through stimulus that it's getting from the brain. So when the brain sees something and it's making us nervous, gut feels nervous. And we're feeling those trillions of bacteria nervous or excited or activated in some way. When the brain perceives danger, the gut bacteria perceive danger, and we often feel that as this constriction. So now I want to throw it to you and about how growing up and how our lived experience teaches us to observe, to listen, to ignore these feelings that go on.
Yeah, it's so interesting what you said, and so fascinating how before when we would use the phrase, oh, I just had a gut feeling, or I just had a feeling. But now we know that that gut feeling literally is a biological feeling that is informing our brain. So sometimes, when you'll walk into a party and you just have a feel, or into a room or into a neighborhood or just wherever you are, and you just have this sense of, you might not even be able to put to words, but you can just feel the environment. That's a gut feeling. But what you've described sounds like it's not just this ethereal emotion gut feeling. It is literally bacteria, literally something biological occurring and interacting between the gut and the brain.
Yes. May I add something in here?
Yeah, of course.
Because what's happening is we get stimulus from the outside world. And often our conscious brain doesn't have the words or the ability to put that into a cognitive thought, right? Like this feels off, isn't a really cognitive thought. There's
Yeah.
nothing you can do with that. So the microbiome supports us in this way by actually making us feel off. So they're interpreting this stimulus that's coming at you really fast. You're hearing things, you're smelling things, you're feeling things on your skin. And most importantly, you're seeing things. You see things at a much quicker rate than you can actually process and think about. So your subconscious and I'm sure you can talk about this, but your subconscious is doing a whole bunch of things all at once.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that your brain teaches your body to interpret that is through this feeling in your gut. If you get that feeling, get the bleep out of here, right? And you don't know why, but it's there. It's all that stimulus telling your gut bacteria something's not right, protect your life, and your gut bacteria responding, and thus you get this feeling of I need to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. That is important to listen to. And I think what I think is so important about what you just said is how you can't put words to it necessarily. And it makes me think of babies and children, pre-verbal. Before they can even speak the way we can speak now, the way we can describe an experience, the way we might be able to put a label to how we're feeling, babies can't do that yet because they can't speak. But they are just as in tune to what is going on They are born with this gut instinct. Babies are born, we are born with intuition. We are born knowing, even when we don't know. Studies have been done on babies who have been in a home where there's been domestic violence, and the parents involved in the conflict and the violence might think that the child is too young to understand what's going on, so they don't realize what's happening. It's okay if we fight, if one person hits the other in front of the baby. That's not true at all. There are studies that have been done how the brain is impacted. Literally, the brain changes from those experiences. So babies are being impacted just because they're little, just because they can't speak, just because they can't understand in words. They are completely understanding in their body, in their gut, in their knowing that you can't put words to. So this is how powerful it is. And so as human beings, we've been given this amazing, I was going to say instinct, but it's this amazing tool to be able to navigate life. And what happens is society starts to mold us. Like you think about kids, right? Kids are more free than adults are. They can just and I'm making a generalization because of course there are adults that know how to live more freely. So I always like to give these caveats because nothing is all or nothing. But if you look at children, how they'll just say something freely, they'll behave freely because they are really acting more free from their intuition and what feels right and what feels good and what they want to do. But what does society do? We suppress that. School has rules, life has rules, society has rules. Yes, of course, I'm not saying we need to not have rules, but I am talking about the impact. And then, I think about what just came to mind is like a phrase that I was often told, said with warmth and love, be a good girl now, or like upon parting from an adult, bye, be a good girl. Like, and I actually have memories of thinking to myself, what does that mean? What do I have to do to be a good girl? But I never said anything. I never asked. But now looking back, I realize in some way, phrases like that affect us. They make us see the world through the lens of that's what I need to be. That's what I need to do. I need to be good, whatever good is, right? So we define good however we think we need to be. And so that is an example. There's so many, I mean, it can happen differently for different people, depending on the phrase that they heard, depending on the experience they had. Let's just use this one. So maybe hearing, oh, be good, be a good girl, you go through the world thinking, okay, that's my role. That's what I have to do. I have to be good. So what does that mean? You translate it into whatever you think good means, right? Because I never asked anybody, oh, what do you mean? Although I was thinking it. So I created my own vision, my own idea of what I think it means that I have to be good. Does it mean I have to listen to people? Does it mean I have to comply? Does it mean I have to do what other people tell me to do? And so to some extent, yes, I think I did take in those kinds of messages. And those are the messages we grow up with. I'm veering off a little bit from our topic actually now because this is so much that I can go in so many different directions. So I'm trying to rein myself in, but I'll just finish this thought that what we experience as a child, so it's not just the experiences, it's the interpretations we make of those experiences, create the filter through which we see the world, live the world, the way we see ourselves, the way we see others. And so we grow up with those beliefs, and those beliefs and thoughts that we have from those experiences then determines how we interact even as adults, which then impacts our relationships because now we have these beliefs that we are now applying 20 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later from an interpretation we made as a child. Not about the gut, but still to see my thought through. I'll just say one other thing about intuition and gut. And I learned more and more about this as I not just from what I've learned as a therapist, not just from what I've learned book knowledge, but more and more in my life. And I will, because that toxic relationship in my life was such a pivotal point. I mean, I'm hesitating because I'm trying not to go in multiple tangents now, because that taught me so much from there. That one of the things I learned about intuition, not from books, not from my being a licensed marriage and family therapist, but from my experience of how important it is to get in touch with your gut. And I realized that I had lost touch with my intuition over the years, which maybe in another episode, or I don't know, we can decide, maybe we can go into it today, but it would be a lot. For whatever reasons, for the reasons that I lost touch, society, keeping up with life. The more we are in our head, the less we are in touch with our gut. And so part of what's so important about getting in touch with your gut is getting in touch with your body, recognizing how you feel, being able to identify emotions, not just happy, sad, and worried. Those can be nuanced in so many more descriptive words, but really getting in touch with how you feel, what your emotions are, identifying words, putting words to how you're feeling, as well as recognizing your body sensations. And that's how people become more in tune with their intuition and are able to make better decisions for themselves, able to make decisions that are in line with their values, that are aligned with their soul and what's important to them. And be able to just kind of flow with life, if I can say it like that. You know, that feeling of stuck and you don't know what to do? That's because you're stuck in your head. If you're in touch with your intuition, you have fewer and fewer moments in life where you don't know what to do. There's less confusion. I thought that was my last point, but now that I'm using the word confusion, interrupt me if you want. It makes me think about gaslighting, because gaslighting, to me, gaslighting is, in one word, can be described as confusion. I know it's not the theoretical meaning, but it's tied to it strongly for me. Yes. What
I wanted to add was gaslighting, episode 1. Guys, go back and listen to it, okay? Just because Jodi goes into detail in that episode about, because gaslighting is one of those terms that's thrown around a lot these days. And she goes into detail, and we have quite an in-depth discussion about actually what gaslighting is. So this confusion, if you want more info on that and you haven't yet, go listen to episode 1. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. No, thank you. That's important. It is, because that is for all the reasons you just said. So with gaslighting comes confusion. And that's what makes, when a person is gaslit, they become confused about what the reality is. You start to doubt yourself and doubt what you're seeing in front of you, doubt what reality is, doubt about how to live life and what's going on around you. And so to tie this back to intuition, if we're in touch with our intuition, I think we're at less risk of being gaslit. And if we are, I think if we are gaslit and we're in touch with our intuition, we have a better chances of being able to think it through more clearly. Because when you're gaslit, you're in confusion, and being in touch with your intuition is the opposite. It's being more clear, and it's really, did I say this already? How it's the subconscious as well. Intuition, I believe I don't know if you'll see it differently. Yours being more like a biology, and I come more from an emotional place. It's interesting how the differences are still so similar. That I think that intuition is also our subconscious, because our subconscious is we're less aware of than our conscious thinking. So our conscious is our thoughts. Like I said, if we get too stuck there, that's when we can ruminate. That's when we can have difficulty making decisions, not knowing what to do, feeling unsure about ourselves, feeling anxious. The subconscious knows a lot better what the answers are. It's a much calmer place to come from. There's less thinking. There's just being in touch with yourself, being in touch with what's around you, coming more from a feeling place that has much more calmness to it. So meditation helps you get there. Silencing helps you get there. Society, where I talked about how it can dampen it. Think about our lives today. Again, most people, I don't want to generalize, but we all can identify with life being super busy. Two-income households to make ends meet, working, taking care of children. Maybe you also have pets, taking care of the home, taking care of even just the chores of the week, whether it's laundry, going to the store. Your week is filled. There we go. It's done already. Try fit in friendships, try fit in exercise, try fit in pleasurable activities. All of that is so go, go, go. We're stuck in our conscious. We have fewer opportunities to be in a position where we can just let go, not be thinking, just be calm, be more in touch with ourselves. And that's why it's become so much more important today to find those opportunities to have some quiet time. Just be still, just do nothing, even if it's for 5 minutes. Try it 5 minutes in a week. If that's all, if you feel you have no time, do it for 5 minutes once a week. Meditate. If you can't meditate the traditional way, which maybe we can get into another time as well, because people often say, I can't meditate, it's too difficult. I know. Meditate other ways, just notice your breathing. Just lie down on the grass and look up at the clouds for 5 minutes. Think about the difference that will make to how you feel. That's an indication of getting more in touch with yourself.
Love it. And there is so much that I want to say, but I want to start with your subconscious and your microbiome.
Yes.
Microbiome interprets the subconscious and if you think about it this way, and sends it to your conscious, where you can, if you choose, make sense of a situation.
Your microbiome sends the information to your subconscious?
No, your subconscious, right? Your subconscious, remember how I spoke earlier about the brain is receiving all of this data all the time? Like your eyes, your ears, your skin, your nose, right? And your subconscious absorbs all of this and it knows exactly what's going on, but it's too quick or too much, or we don't have the words for it to be transferred to the conscious. However, it does transfer messages, especially of safety, right? Our gut feeling is a survival mechanism. Our subconscious, which in turn, so the subconscious feeds to our microbiome, which in turn talks directly through the vagus nerve to our conscious mind and our conscious brain, and gives us the opportunity to begin to make sense of all of the code, right?
It sounds like you and I actually are saying the same thing.
Yes,
it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
And science is finally catching up to psychology, and psychology is finally catching up to science, and psychologists and psychiatrists and scientists, like physiology scientists, are finally speaking to each other, which they weren't for the longest time, right? The exploration of the mind was always something over there, and exploration of the body was always something over there, but they're one. They're connected. And if you can't be whole, mind, body, spirit, right? Then you can't, I don't think you can lead an as fulfilled life. Now, one of the problems, I think, and I could be incorrect, is that people fear the grounding, the meditation, the stopping, the slowing down, because they're scared. There's a fear of what they will discover about busyness, right?
That could be. I would say it would be on a subconscious level, perhaps.
Yeah. But because there's a lot of that busyness that allows us to escape from some of the realities of
Mm,
life.
100%.
If I stay really, really, really busy, I'm not going to realize that I'm really, really, really lonely.
Yep.
Because
Not going to realize my marriage is crappy. I don't have to think about that car problem that I have to pay for. Yes, you just keep yourself busy.
exactly, right? And so not having the time to do that is one of the ways we avoid. Humans don't want discomfort, right? And anything that we don't know is discomfort. Even if it's the most awful thing in the world, right? Like a bad relationship, it's easier for us to mentally handle that than it is to handle the not knowing, the change,
Yeah.
the discomfort of like the discomfort that, better the devil you know.
Yeah, 100%.
Literally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so I think you're speaking to an example of not that it explains it fully, but staying in a bad relationship or staying in a toxic relationship, you know what to expect, even if it's bad. The
right.
thought of leaving, what does that entail? The change, the unknown, that is scary.
That, and then along with, and one of the things as you were speaking, and you and I experienced it together, was when you were in your relationship that was not healthy, your gut, you knew in your gut what was going on.
100%.
And you told me this, but your brain became, and I'm not saying this in a bad way because I think it happens a lot. Your brain became obsessed with proving your gut wrong in a way. Obsessed is probably the wrong word. You're fixated.
Yeah, okay, let's say preoccupied. And I'm going to just make a slight difference to that. Not necessarily proving my gut wrong, but I needed to prove it right, actually. I think that was part of it too.
Okay, both, or proving something.
Or proving, looking for proof. Yes, yes. Looking for proof because we need proof because why our brain needs proof. Intuition doesn't need proof.
So then, and I'm going to share a little bit of a personal story as well in a while. But then the big question becomes, and you brought this up earlier, circling back, is when did we learn
Yeah.
not trust our body? When did you learn to not trust your body? And it starts when we're very, very, very young, right? Even the thought of there's monsters under my bed. Oh, don't be silly, right?
100%.
Rather
Right.
than saying, oh, honey, why are you afraid? Let's go check under the bed. Right?
Yes.
No, 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 don't be silly. Don't be
Yes.
silly.
So let's explain that, just put that to words a little bit. The one where you're saying, oh, honey, let's go look under the bed, let's see, that's validating. Even if there are no monsters, you're not saying there are no monsters, because to the child in this example, there are monsters. So when you say there aren't, the child is left with this cognitive dissonance, with this internal conflict. Like, wait, it feels scary. But somebody I trust is telling me there's nothing to be scared of. Doesn't make sense to me. That's a conflict. Now you're not trusting your intuition already.
So how do you encourage your child to trust their intuition, yet be realistic?
You said it right there. So with you said it beautifully. That was it. Just not negating what your child is saying, but leaning into it. There sometimes parents feel, because we're human, I'm not faulting parents, feel threatened by a child thinking something different than them or thinking something that's not true. It's scary. It's like, and it could be coming from a really good place. Like a parent could be like scared that their child thinks something that's not true because then they worry that their child's going to believe this wrong thing in life. So it's coming from a good place. But to negate it and say that's not true blocks the intuition. So simply doing what you said is spot on. Just, oh, honey, I know you feel scared, right? We're getting back in touch with feelings. Label the feeling for your child. That's a great step right there. Just, oh, I know you feel scared. Just label it scared and talk to them about what's going on. Where are the monsters? Let the child discover for themselves that there's no monsters.
Got it. Okay. I understand that's good because again we're taught that with everything, and I often look at, animals are also great because animals don't speak, and they're very, even deer,
Intuitive.
in the African savannah, they know when the lions are coming. They know. You'll see their ears
Amazing.
twitch and they run, and it's a gut thing. It's a
Mhm.
microbiome thing.
Mm.
And little kids will, without the filter, and will say that's not a nice person, or something like that, and we're reprimanded for that,
Yeah.
and it, I guess it begins to create the issues of, well, I have to prove, or not even I have to prove, they can't be a terrible person just because I think they are, right? And by terrible, it doesn't mean that they're bad or evil. It just means that they're not the person for me, for whatever
Yes.
whatever
Yes.
reason that might be. And but that can't be. So I need to really try and like this person, or be accepted by this person, or
Mhm.
accept this person, or have a relationship with this person. And it's
Mhm.
I can see how that would bring us into um, um, poor relationships, for lack of a better term,
Mhm.
and relationships that can be hurtful because we keep on putting it on ourselves, which is part of an abusive relationship. They put it on you anyway. Why is this, why can't I make this work? What's wrong with me that I can't make this?
Yeah, and the need to be good, see good in the person. It's
Right.
not nice to say they're not a nice person, so I need to find the good in them. And so you're overriding your intuition that's telling you, wait, what they did there was disrespectful.
Yeah.
And that gets overridden.
Yeah. And so we stay. Right? Or somebody, and I've been in the situation, and I'm sure you have, who um, outwardly is the most wonderful person in the world.
Mhm.
And people look at you and don't understand why you're having an issue. Like, what's wrong with
Yep.
you? You have an issue. What's wrong with you that you have an issue with that person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if the person, and we still need to discuss this term, is a narcissist, and some narcissists can outwardly project the most perfect, wonderful human being,
Absolutely.
yet
Yeah.
be an absolute terror
Yeah.
uh, on the back end, right? So, yeah, so interesting story just about me. And I don't know why, and I don't know, well, I do, but we can get into that in another time.
Mhm.
But people often call me quite judgmental because when I meet someone,
Mhm.
I either like you or I don't.
Mm.
And I learned the hard way because I tried a couple of times,
Yeah.
not listening to that,
Uh-huh.
comes back and bites me in the behind
Aha.
pretty much every single time.
Mhm.
It's been an interesting journey for me. And no, it's not a perfect, it's always a practice, but generally not from a work perspective, that there's different filters that come up when you're working that often don't allow you to feel. Sometimes they do, but in personal settings, 100%. If I'm meeting somebody, I either like you or I don't. And it's brought up some challenges sometimes of me having to be nice and polite in social situations that have been incredibly challenging for me to be nice and polite, like
Yeah.
gritting your teeth and smiling. But
Yeah.
just an
Yeah.
interesting side note. So how many women, because you deal with so many women now, and I think the more you work with it, the more they come to you, and the more you see these women in these toxic or unsupportive or just, relationships that don't serve them
Mm-hmm.
in any way. How many of these women, or maybe you found out, or maybe you haven't,
Mm-hmm.
but similar to in your case, can have ignored and continue to ignore their gut feelings?
Yeah. Yes, I would say every one of them. Yeah.
And
To some degree or another. Sorry, what did you say?
generalizing is a big deal for you. So for you to say that, I know
Yeah.
is it's
Yeah.
important, and I think it's important for people to hear in that. and I say this to people with food, and emotional eating is a big one as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you need to do.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Try to
Trusting yourself. So that's really how it sometimes how you can see it is when a woman is the women that I see when they aren't trusting themselves.
yeah.
You don't trust your decision making, don't trust yourself. And yeah, it's all connected to not trusting your intuition.
So how do you begin to build trust in yourself?
You have to get to know yourself.
And how do you do that?
First of all, I want to say it takes time. See it as the same way you get to know a friend as your relationship grows, the same way you get to know a potential partner that you're dating. It takes time. You just have to slow down. Just like we were saying, when life gets so busy, we don't have time to really stop and think about the things that are bothering us or the things that have to be taken care of. We have to slow down and actually reflect. Oh gosh, I don't even know where to begin. But the general thing I will say is slow down, spend enough time where you are not so busy that you only doing or thinking. So time where you can just be with yourself, recognize your emotions, become aware of how you feel about something, reflect on a person you just met and get in touch with what that felt like when you met them. Oh, actually, I did get a bad feel, or actually, I feel quite connected to them. We don't stop and recognize those things. So I think just given that we don't have time to like go over everything, I will just call it slow down. Slow down and give yourself time to feel as opposed to thinking, as opposed to just doing,
Got
and
it.
recognizing how your body feels, identifying emotions that you're having, which can be difficult because if you slow down and recognize how you're feeling, yeah, you might start to cry. You might start to realize something. It might open the floodgates, and you might be afraid that you're going to not be able to stop crying. Well, if that's the case, it could be because there's been a long time of not recognizing how you feel. So it's not easy and it's not without emotional pain, but it's worth it.
I have to share a story. May I share a personal story?
Please, I'd love you
I hope
to.
everybody would bear with me here. So, and this isn't for everybody, but for me, yoga saved
Mm-hmm,
my life.
mm-hmm,
Yoga saved my mental health.
mm-hmm,
And yoga is to this day my
mm-hmm,
mental health plan.
mm-hmm.
My husband makes a joke, and rather than being telling me that I'm being mean or being
He
bitchy, or
says go to yoga.
he doesn't even say that. He's my husband is a very special human, and we'll talk about him another time.
Uh-huh.
But he says, "My love, have you been to yoga today?" And then I know. But I was the busy person. I
Mm-hmm.
was the person who didn't stop. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll sleep when I'm dead. I didn't stop. And it's a long story of how I got
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But I started my very first yoga class, my very first one. I was I was at a loss for words. It was the hardest thing, physically one of the hardest things I'd ever done. And if anybody's never done yoga and then goes and does a challenging yoga class, we see guys in yoga all the time doing that.
Yeah.
But it absolutely changed my world. I've
Yeah.
always been into personal development and
Mm-hmm.
coaching and nutrition. You know this. It's always been stuff in my brain. And it absolutely changed my world. And the more I did it, the more the more grounded I became.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is a breathing thing because in yoga, the point of the practice in some way is to be so connected to your breath and the movement of your body that you turn off your conscious brain. You are absolutely immersed in your breath and in your body, right? Get out of your head, get into your body.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Mm-hmm. Can
I
I ask you? Oh, actually, I think you've kind of answered it. You're good.
so I decided to become a yoga instructor, and I do teach yoga now. I decided to become an instructor simply to learn more. And as I said, this is for me, it's not for everybody. There's many ways you can ground, there's many ways you can slow down. Some people it takes a little longer. For me, it was literally like that first yoga. It wasn't like, oh, that first yoga class and I was fine, but that first yoga class shifted my brainwaves. I remember it clearly. But when I was doing my training, I was going through a very challenging period in my relationship. Very challenging. And there were things that I knew and I didn't know how I knew them, gut feelings, right?
Yeah.
And over the years, I've really learned to become very in touch with my intuition. As I said, I like you or I don't. And this is oversharing Michal episode, isn't it? But anyway, and so in the training, we were having a class that was energetically very much about opening the front of your body. So exposure, opening the front of your body, vulnerability. And we were in a very big, very deep back bend. And all of a sudden, with absolutely no control, in a room full of people where I'm doing yoga teacher training, I start bawling my
Yeah.
eyes out
Yeah.
so ridiculously, right, that I couldn't breathe. And I'm trying to hold it in and not like cry and make noises. And I'm backwards and tears are pouring down my face. And we were doing this for an extended period of time. And I didn't want to come out of it because, ego and I can do all of this and everybody's going to see me doing this. Once we were done, I ran out of the room. I went to the bathroom. I was sobbing for hours. I could not go back the entire afternoon. And it was the strangest feeling. And I can only say that my gut and my brain were speaking to each other
Connected.
with clarity, because in that moment in time, not only did I didn't know what to do yet, because it was a puzzle that I had to solve. But at that moment in time, I knew exactly what was going on. Exactly. It was, and the one girl who came to console me, I kept on telling her, and she said, no, 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 no. It's no, it could be that. I was like, no, no, it's not. I know. I know in my heart, I know in my gut, I know in my head. And the reason that I share this is I'm sure that women who find themselves in precarious positions in relationships, or people who simply find themselves in challenging positions in life, if they can find a way to connect to their heart and connect to their intuition, it becomes, from clear as mud, it becomes to clear as day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I, to this day, I have yet to experience such a moment of precise clarity.
Wow. From
And
confusion to clarity. It makes sense.
like this. And what it was that really all of a sudden, strong connection, however it happened, my conscious mind
Yeah.
and my subconscious mind, my
Coming together.
and my intuition. And they were able to communicate to each other in such a way that I could put precise and specific words to my intuition, which brings me back to what we said, what you were advising in the beginning, which was great. To the child scenario that we spoke about, and in other ways, is learning to identify our feelings,
Thanks.
learning to put words to your feelings. And my work with emotional eating,
Yeah.
changing diets, and there's a lot of stigma that comes around that. I focus a lot on that too, is really learning to put words to your feelings, because we try and mask our feelings, especially the uncomfortable ones, all the time. And we do it with many things, and we do it with busyness, and we do it by self-medicating, which is busyness. It's being on the internet, and it's shopping, it's drugs, it's alcohol, it's food. And all of these things, what they are doing is distracting us.
Yeah.
There's many things that they're doing, but they're distracting us from that connection to self. And again, back to my yoga, that's why yoga helps me every day, is because it gives me the opportunity daily to connect with self. But
Mhm.
that's a practice. And I think
Yeah.
connecting with our intuition, not only is it learning to know yourself, getting to know yourself, which takes time, but
Mhm.
it's also the same way we work on relationships. You work on the relationship with yourself.
Mhm.
And it's not a perfect, it's a daily practice. And sometimes we're really good at it, and sometimes we suck. But acknowledging that both are okay, I
Yeah,
think.
it is because that's life. Life's a journey. And some days we do something well and sometimes we don't. And it's a constant, like you call it a practice. It is yoga is called a practice, right?
Yeah. So is
And
life.
say that again.
So is life.
So is life, exactly. The journey of life, exactly. There is no book on how to do it. We're all doing what we can. And yoga, meditation, these are all ways to improve our lives, become more in touch with ourselves, more in touch with our lives, more in tune with how we want our lives to be. Um, for those who haven't tried yoga, something that I think about is when I started doing yoga many years ago, I thought it was exercise. Like I saw it as a class in fitness and flexibility. And it was only later in my life that I realized, wait, I feel different when I do yoga. Wait, what's this connection? Wait, what? Why are they saying something about the breathing? And I started to get more in tune with it's not just physical movement, it is a moving meditation. It is meditation. It's just not the traditional way someone kind of imagines meditation to be.
Yeah, well, funny story, well, not funny, true story, is the practice of yoga, the physical practice of yoga, actually began many, many, many years ago in India to exhaust the body and the mind to such a degree that you could sit in stillness in meditation for hours and hours.
Oh, it's an irony. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
after
Yeah.
after a very vigorous practice, you and yoga doesn't have to be, but in this particular strain of yoga, Ashtanga, after the vigorous practice, your body is tired, right? And your mind is quieted to a point where you can sit in
That
meditation.
makes so much sense. That's at the end of yoga. Sometimes when I do yoga at the end, is it Shavasana where you lie?
Yes, that's right.
That 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 position, like I don't like it when it's like the end of class because they only let you lie in that position for 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes if you're lucky. That is what meditation feels like when you can lie like that after yoga.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great information. I didn't know that before, and it makes so much sense.
But Shavasana, that final pose is the hardest yoga pose because people's mind goes straight back to busy.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's so
And
meditative.
And one of the reasons I never ever did yoga until a little later in my life was because I went to the gym. I wasn't into the stretchy part
You
of it.
see, we both, that's it.
Right.
We used to, because today times have changed. When I used to, I mean, I think I've been doing yoga for about 30 years.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I was just like you saying, it
Yeah.
was
It was
gym, it was
exactly that.
exercise, it was flexibility.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was exactly that. And then I went and I was like, oh, this is hard. This is a bit of a workout. Okay, I can do this. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, there were other benefits too, but the drive, one of the big drive, and looking back, I can say it changed me. One of the
Mhm.
drivers was, oh, look, I'm getting some different yoga muscles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally, right?
Because that's the physical, and we talk about the mind-body connection. Yoga has it both.
But I'm not saying it's for everybody, and it's
Mhm.
not. And there's other
Absolutely.
ways to do it. But I think no matter what it is, it requires slowing
Slowing down.
down. What's one of the things we always tell people to do when we want them to calm down or slow down? Take a breath.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
a
Yeah, because it even just that one moment of breathing, just becoming aware of your breath. Like I say to people who, clients that have a hard time meditating or breathing in a certain way, I say just notice your breathing. That's all. Just start there. And like you say, yoga is not for, maybe this will be my last point, and maybe we can wrap it up, is you say yoga is not for everybody. Absolutely. There's so many different ways to get more in touch with yourself. It might be yoga, even working out at the gym, swimming. When I swim and do laps, getting into that rhythm of stroke after stroke feels meditative because I'm not thinking of anything else but just those movements, stroke after stroke. And like I say, if any of this feels like too much, literally just notice your breathing. It can take 10 seconds if you have to, if you don't want to do it for long or don't have the time, or lie down and look at the clouds for 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be the kind of meditation you imagine where you have to be sitting in silence, making your mind go blank. It doesn't have to be any of that.
I love it. And even noticing how uncomfortable that little moment makes you feel. And then practice. The more you do it, this is part of getting to know yourself. The more you do it, the more familiar it becomes. And then and then we get better at it. All right. I think that's a wonderful place.
Yeah.
Place to leave it.
I always love the connections we find between your field, nutrition, which is more body, more biological, and mine is more emotional therapy, coaching, and the connections, the similarities. It's just unbelievable, and it's a testament to the mind-body connection.
Absolutely, they impact each other, and I know we'll get more and more into that as we build up. So
Nice to see you again.
Yes, you too. And I'm going to remind everybody to comment, tell us about your experiences with intuition, where you've struggled, share this video with people who you think will find it helpful. Subscribe to our channel if you want to get notifications that we have a new podcast up. Come back and visit us next week. All the good things. My friend Jodi, this is the best part of my week is getting to chat with you and getting to chat with you every week. I love it.
I love it too. It's always nice to see you, and our information will be below.
Yes. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Bye, Michal. Bye, everyone.
Bye.